Welcome to Overdrive. I'm joined by one of my favourite humans, Mr. Devin
Good to see you, buddy.
and I'm not bullshitting you. That's
Yeah,
legit.
that's awesome. We've known each other for a long time. Then.
Wow, yeah. My first strapping gig was '97.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
And you were ill when I met you then.
I'm always ill, man. I think it's because I picked my nose.
Get rid of the boogers.
I know. Because the thing is, on the bus, you get bus boogers, and they're like deep rooted. You know, you go to grab them, and you feel something move in the back of your skull, right? So I think that just hammering my fingers up my nose for however many years is probably of no help.
Nearly 30 years, I think it's going to be. Almost,
yeah, more than that for my finger in the nose.
Me and you both, man.
Yeah, brother. And I think it's not just us, man.
So this tour is now almost over. I'm not going to ask you how the tour is doing because tons of people have been asking you that in other questions.
Oh no, I haven't. This is the third interview I've done on this tour.
Interview? Oh,
like on the entire tour.
Wow.
Yeah, I've decided I don't want to do tours. Or I don't want to do interviews as much
because
not because I feel like obviously I don't feel like I'm beyond it or whatever, but I also feel that as I get older, there's certain things where I'm like, I don't need to do that.
Not at every stop as well.
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
and it's like I think that in order for me to maintain my passion to do this, I've also got to, a lot of my process over the past couple of years, and COVID obviously helped, but learning how to sort of cease that people-pleasing tendency, not to be, like a dick about it.
Yeah,
but you realize that what's your motivation for constantly putting others in front of yourself, and how much of that is just looking for approval, or if you're insecure or what have you. And so the process of sort of tangling those knots has been therapeutic. And part of that is just like touring is really difficult. And if you've only got a certain window in the day of being able to kind of get yourself balanced enough to do what your job is, and yet you're taking all that time up doing interviews that some of them are really cool, but a lot of them are like podcasts and like fanzines that you're doing it more for their sake, which is fine. But ultimately, I'm just like, man, I need to get my shit together. So part of that was that. So I don't know if that was a question, but
no, I feel even more honoured the fact is the way. So, your first week back at home after you've done the laundry, you've adjusted to sleeping now. What's the sort of first thing that Devin does when he gets home?
I love yard work. I love mowing the lawn. I love like gardening and things. It's not even that I love it, but it's like a tangible. It's like a tangible progress that you can see. Like when you mow the lawn, you're like, there's a line, there's another line, there's another line.
Do you go back and forth?
I do. And I have been building an Atmos Studio as well, which has been very expensive, but it's coming together. And this Moth project that I've been working on for years, I'm finally now, because it's all going to be in Atmos, and it's part and parcel of trying to sort of confront the people-pleasing tendencies, as well as on a creative level. What I want to do now is so specific and so bloody cool, man. Like I've got this idea that I think is fucking awesome, but in order to do it the way that I want it to be done, it has to be uncompromised, like completely.
Yeah.
And so a big part of building my own studio and doing all these things is I don't want to have to answer to anybody. I don't want a committee of people with their arms crossed saying, well, we should get to the chorus quicker or whatever. I'm like, I want it to be like this, and I want the intent to be this, and I want the emotional impact to crescendo in this particular way, so that when people are participating in it, it's a real like conscientious effect that we're orchestrating. And so putting together the team for that, and the right equipment and the right technical acumen to make it all actualized it's thrilling to me. I love it. So laundry, mow the lawn, and then I'm probably just going to dig in. Yeah.
Stop again.
I love the technical aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
I enjoy the nuts and bolts of creating music as much, not as much, but like I like knowing how to set up my own guitars. I like knowing how the pickups work. I like knowing how to solder and do all my own cable management and problem solve the computer and set up all the objects in Atmos. And like I love learning about those things. So, and there's a lot to learn.
Hell of a lot.
Yeah, man.
So I was going to say that the Lightwork album, for me, it was a lot less cathartic than the Empath and Snuggles on the Puzzler side. I would certainly say, in my opinion, I think it's a great representation of how you sound in 2022, 2023, as an actual record goes.
That was a hard one. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always seem to have, like you've mentioned the Moth as well, you have lots of projects on the go. Is there something that we could potentially expect that's kind of left of field that will really surprise everyone musically? Moth is going to be there.
Moth is fucking crazy, man. Lightwork is a record that I needed to make and I needed to go through, but it was, I'd never worked with anybody else before. And that process was, I guess I needed to learn. But it was very difficult for me. But at the end of it, through all the difficulty, I managed to feel like it was a representation of that particular period of my life as accurately as I could do it, and to work through adversity and have the result of it still be something that isn't like destructive on a personal level was where its success lied for me. Because I think there's a certain point during the making that record where I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. Like, not even on a musical level, but just everything surrounding it was so not what I was comfortable with. And I think there's a certain amount of its there's a certain amount of its appeal to me that comes from that, from being out of my comfort zone, right? And conscientiously, that was something that I asked for, so I don't resent it or regret it. But if there was anything that period made me realize, it's like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. What I want to do from here on out is have complete control with a group of people whom I can jam with in a very creatively free and open way. And the more standard ways of making music and how the industry has kind of dictated records be made and everything for so many years. I'd never done it before, so I wanted to try it. And I appreciate the experience, but I don't want to do it. Like,
at least you tried it.
I did, yeah. And I really appreciate Garth, and I really appreciate everybody that was involved with it because of the amount of effort they put in. And I mean, I'm not easy to work with, right? But also, it also made me realize that the people with whom I find my creative world functions effortlessly with, that's who I need to be with.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're in an environment where there's a lot of friction between not just the producer and me, but just everything. You know, there's ways that for years the record industry is like, this is how we do it. This is how you get a drum sound. These are the preamps you use. This is how you do it. And anything other than that is like, no. And I'm just like, you know, fuck,
literally.
You know. So it was a great learning experience for me, and almost more than anything else because I came out of it going, okay, I'm going to do it exactly how I fucking want to do it from here on out. And the Moth is, if it gets done in the way that I'm hoping, it's a 10 million pound middle finger.
Right, which is actually my next question I had. I said in my head, from how I've heard you describe it over the years, it's going to be this grandiose, epic spectacle.
It's beyond epic, man.
Yeah, and you've been obviously most of your back catalogue. There's moments, some of them like whole albums, where there's just this epicness.
Sure.
So, you know,
Sure. Yeah.
In the previous projects, sometimes you've done crowdfunding in that, and now to achieve, like you say, it's going to be this 10 million beast.
Yeah.
Is there an element of you considering doing some sort of
I get asked
crowdfunding kind of thing?
I get asked.
I mean, your fan base is obviously hugely loyal.
Yeah.
And when you do those things, you surpass targets and things.
For sure. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to ask anybody for anything. you know.
But we'd be getting something in return as a fan base.
Yeah, this has been suggested
Yeah.
to me as well. Is that, you know, if you have that as an angle, you know, you can have like equity in it or something.
Of course.
But in order to do the Moth the way that I need to do, it's going to be in three stages. There's like a pre-seeding stage where I need to finish my studio, which is like going to cost a lot, and I don't want, like, how do you solicit funds from people for you to finish a studio?
True.
And not come across as being like, you know, like a chump in a way.
Yeah.
So I feel that if I do solicit from the audience, it'll be for something tangible. You know, it'll be for parts of the Moth, it'll be parts of the actual process. And when it comes to like the pre-seed and everything, where I may need upwards of like $500,000 to finish what I need to do, I don't want to ask the audience for that. I've got a couple of buddies that have made some money, and so I've been putting together a pitch for all of that. But also part of my process recently, I've been I mean, it sounds pretentious to say, but I've been inventing shit as well. And I've got a group of people back home where every time I get these ideas, we could like, okay, how do we make a prototype of this? How do we, because while I'm writing, I'll have an idea like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this, and then it would go like this, and it would look like this, and this would be its function, this would be how it works, and this is, so in order to make prototypes for those things, we've got somebody who has got, you know, an advanced working knowledge of these certain AI technologies where you can do virtual prototypes of aspects of it, whether or not it's like a proprietary pickup or you know, I've got a bunch of really idiosyncratic ideas, but I think they're fucking awesome. And so what I started realizing over the past couple of years is if I don't do things on my own, if I don't stretch out and be like, I'm going to do it, like life is short, I'm going to do it, then you're going to be waiting for people to give you the okay to do things.
Yeah.
Like, would it be okay if we made this thing, or can I use this preamp or whatever? And I don't want to do that, man. I just want to do whatever I want, and I want to do it with brilliant, empathetic, creative people that I can hang out with, right? And I've got a whole group of those, so fuck it, let's do it.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So pre-COVID, we had Empath Volume 1, and then Empath 2 would have probably followed that, and then I remember you mentioning that your end goal was then to perform Empath live. Obviously those plans have been scrapped, so now Empath is like long down the road.
Yeah.
Would you say that the pandemic changed how you musically approach a project? So obviously you had kind of that sort of in line, and then obviously that was completely poo-pooed.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, I'm sorry.
And would we have ended up getting an album like Lightwork in the end?
No. No, Lightwork was an experiment that was based on being in the same town as a group of people that I've always, and I thought, okay, I'll give this a shot. You know? We wouldn't have gotten the puzzle either. The puzzle is, music aside, because it's, you know, for some but not for many, right? That was an epiphany for me. When I listen to it, it's not what I want to do, but what it represents to me was a type of creative thinking that was rooted in something that was really new for me. And the process of creating that was done in a way that I had never considered doing before, where I improvise, and then from that improvisation, I extrapolate from it things that I think are suggested in the clouds of improvisation, and then orchestrate it. And then from that, songs tend to appear that, in my estimation, are much closer to your subconscious truth than beating a horse. You know what I mean? Like every day it's like, I wonder if I go to this chord. No, I'll go to this chord. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes that still works because you're writing more traditional arrangements. But if you're able to like instinctively vomit sound and then sit with it long enough to say, well, there's something in there that wants to come out, and how do we extrapolate that, and with who? So although again, puzzle wasn't exactly what I intend to do musically, well, by a long stretch. The process was so fascinating to me, and the way that it was actualized was so. I was able to dig into something creatively that was really abstract, but also by the nature of that procedure, I was able to recognize that there were patterns in there that really I identified with. And so, puzzle was just, but that as a ideology remained. So Lightwork was in reaction to that. It was much more like, here's the chorus, here's the verse. But when I started writing Moth, I realized that I could incorporate aspects of that improvisational composition, and then things would start to appear that, in my estimation, are much closer to where I'm at subconsciously than I ever thought I was able to reach. And I think a lot of that's because I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not analyzing it. So the Moth as a musical piece is much more like orchestral musical theater to a certain degree, but like a symphony. And so to take that ethos of compositional, like, no mind in a way, and then be able to extrapolate from that something that is epic, allows me, I think, to articulate an emotional component for the Moth that is really bold. And I think in the past I've been afraid of that. I second guess it, right? I think, okay, well, there's a certain energy there that I think is overwhelming. But I also, over the past couple of years, I realized, I'm like, man, that's not my problem. How other people interpret the material, if I'm coming at it from an intention of that, which I feel I am, which is not to hinder, but to try and make something that's like helpful or like powerful or no bullshit or whatever, right? And so I know I'm rambling, but it's like I also feel that it's like in order to really make the Moth what it needs to be, man, it's gotta be, every aspect of it has to be exactly what I want it to be. Like the 100-person choir, the 200-person orchestra, the projection mapping, the Atmos, the visualizations of it, the conceptual aspect of it. It's got to be exactly what I want, or else it's just, you're just blowing money for the sake of it, right?
But not achieving what you want to fully achieve.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But it's like the problem with that, and this goes back to the money thing, is as soon as people start investing that level of money into things, you've got so many hands in the pie.
Yeah.
So it's a very fine line between how do you find ways to fund this enterprise, which ultimately is complete creative, uncompromised freedom, but with the same level of commercial, like I often think, like look what they were able to do with fucking Ant-Man, or the remake of some of these films. It's like, it looks incredible, but it's like, it's just, the tropes are all the same. You know what I mean? So I guess the goal is to make something with that level of commercial, like, awe-inspiring hugeness, but without anybody having a say that isn't invited.
Still allowing you total control to achieve the final goal.
Yeah, but I need help, of course, right?
Of course,
I need people. I'm like here in some respects and here in others. So I need people who are maybe there in that respect and there.
Yeah.
So you can have, and I've been putting together a group of people, man, and it's like, that's gonna be fucking awesome.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, me too.
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
On our Facebook page, I know you're not on Facebook, but I put a thing saying I was going to become chatting today, and I said to people, has anyone got a good question they'd like to ask there?
Yeah.
So Eva Haslab has been asked, she says, can I ask you about your ambient work? You released a lot of 3 albums during COVID, and now the intros at the shows you're doing, you're playing some ambient stuff.
Yeah.
She says, I love these creatively, and it creates a nice serene atmosphere. Was this the intention or not? And what is the idea behind them? I haven't seen this question being asked before, so I thought it would be a hugely overlooked aspect of your work.
Well, I appreciate it. I started among the different things that I've started, right? Like, Townsend Industries is where I make all these crazy prototypes, and HDR is the label, and the Moth is its own entity. But Dream Piece is this ambient thing that I've done, and I've created at home. I built a green screen studio, and we just bought the camera for it. While I've been away, my buddy's been setting up the lights for it, and we secured the domains for it. And the idea is that once or twice a month, I have these improv ambient pieces that are more focused on the music than me. But I play it and do it real time, and then we have all these things simultaneously released, Bandcamp or Spotify, or do a limited run of vinyl. But other than the Moth, it's all I really want to do. Like, one of the funny things that came over the past couple of years is I spent a lot of time prior to the pandemic sort of telling everybody, it's like, I'll do what you want, in a sense. You want me to play heavy stuff, I'll make heavy stuff. You want me to do commercial stuff, I'll do commercial stuff, right? Because I got the capacity to do that to a certain degree. But when I really sit with myself, and I think, what do you want to do? Like, if money wasn't an object, if expectation wasn't an object, if other people who get percentages of your income weren't an object, what would you do? I'd make the Moth, and I would make ambient music. And so my buddy, he said, well, why don't you do that? And I was like, okay. So that's what I'm doing next.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant, I love it.
Keneally's involved with all this too.
Sorry?
Mike Keneally, the guitar
Keneally's
player.
still,
Yeah. So he helped with Empath.
Yes.
And so he'll be involved with all this stuff, and Mike St. John's involved with it. And, again, I've been putting together a team of people. And, when I sit with myself and just be like, do you really want to do that shit? I'm like, fuck no, dude, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that stuff anymore.
I've been doing it for years.
I've been doing it for years. I did it. It's cool.
You've done it. It's there.
I'll play a song or two. I mean, it's like, because I really appreciate the support that people have shown me for all these years. But to not change is akin to psychological, spiritual, personal, apocalypse, man. Like, if I was the same cat that I was when I was 24 at the age of 50, I mean, and the problem is, I know guys at the age of 50 that are the same as they were when they were 24, but I don't know them well anymore, if you know what I'm saying, because it's like you run out of things to talk about pretty quick, right? So the nature of it has changed, man.
Big time.
Yeah.
It's called growing up, I think.
I think so.
Of all the grand live events you've done, Albert Hall, Plovdiv, Rental Circus, which of those met your expectations from the inception to the actual final? And which one are you most proud of those big bands?
They were all a mess, man. I mean, they all worked, but by the skin of the teeth, And they helped in that, if you want to look at it in a really crass way, it like helps the brand, in a sense, to say that these things have been done and whatever. But all of them have been done with this sense of frantic urgency that I can rationalize because of the intent.
Yeah.
Like, they were made to widen the scope so that I would eventually be able to do these things that I'm planning next. And the way I look at all of them is, after each one of them, my thought was not like, nailed it. After each one, I was like, thank God that's done.
Yeah.
And thank God it wasn't a total disaster. Like, that's...
Well, I've been at all of them.
I know you have, man. I know you have.
And the one that was special for me was the Ocean Machine in Plovdiv.
Yeah.
One was because of the setting, so I'm
Sure.
in bands. Two was outside of the event itself, was the community that totally connecting with so many fans that we've all known each other for years, and it's a huge fan base. But it was great to see, obviously, getting Squid to play. That was like goosebump moments, and that was happening.
Talked to him yesterday, man. He's got it rough now, dude. It's
really bad.
He can't even move, man. It's like, but yeah, I'd say that for those, for each one of those events, there were certain aspects of it that I felt were for lack of a better word, and although it may sound more, I don't mean it to sound arrogant, but I can't think of another word. The triumph of each one of those things, like, okay, for Retinal Circus, we shouldn't have been able to pull that off. We had a day's worth of rehearsal. Yeah. Learning all that shit that no one had played, just making the tracks, the lighting, like the circus, like
Violet's props and all that stuff. I know. She's here, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it's like, you know?
Yeah.
So after that was done, I was just like, I can't believe we did that.
Yeah.
And then the first Royal Albert was like, you know, it was like 2 huge sets, and the first one was all the Ziltoid thing, and we had to get Jericho to film all his stuff, and then we had to do all this, like all these artists to do the thing, and we had like a shoestring budget. And then the second set, we had all these people come out, and it's all songs. We only had a couple of days to rehearse because we were already on tour. And so the fact that we pulled it off afterwards, I was like, fuck, I can't believe we did that. But it wasn't like, yeah, nailed it. I was like, holy shit. And then we're on tour the next day, right?
Yeah.
And then Plovdiv, Ocean Machine, that was a crazy thing to learn. And then all the other stuff, because you can't repeat the same things. So if you've done these other special shows, you're doing the same set, which helps for like the programming.
Yeah.
And it helps for like keyboard parts and, you know, like the MIDI that we have for the lights, and, you know, plus in order to try and make it cool, you know, like we're getting fireworks to go off at the end of Simple Lullaby, and but no one knows what the song is, so there's a language barrier where like Paul's running around after going, no, just shoot it, you know, and it's like, you know, and then Squid with Ocean Machine, and then I was on tour for so long, I'm thinking, how the fuck are we going to sing this stuff too, right? Like, so again, I remember after that show, even the interview that Zim had done for that, I was sitting backstage just like, fuck, man. Yeah. So all of those things, although I feel like we did it, was it served a much more practical purpose to me rather than like these are artistic moments for me.
Yeah.
They're more like, in order for me to do the Moth, in order for me to get to the point where I have creative, complete autonomy. So, you know, I don't have to go out and be like, you know, remember the Scarlet? Yeah, I'm doing it again. You know, except now, please like me. It's like, so in order to avoid that, because there's a shelf life for the voice and for all this stuff, I was like, let's do these things. Let's set yourself up so you can have a degree of autonomy. And then when you get to do the Moth, that's when we can have the conversation about did it go well.
Yeah.
And then my hope is that it will be able to be played in multiple places, and I'll be able to watch it as opposed to be up on stage gasping for air, right?
Can't wait to watch it and see
me too.
Last question. 25 albums, 75 albums, 30 years of touring, thereabouts.
Yeah.
Can you sum it up in 3 words?
It's kind of fun.
It's kind of fun, I love it.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of fun.
It's kind of fun.
It is. It's kind of fun, man. I mean, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
Yeah.
But life is short, and it's like, it's just a dream, man. So you gotta just take care of your family and your friends and try and keep yourself balanced emotionally, and try and, amidst this cornucopia of chaos, you've got to try and consciously surround yourself with people that will allow you to remain with humility to the extent that it allows, so that you never allow yourself to get too wound up in it, because it's like
life's too short.
Life's too short, and it's not a big deal. You know, it's so easy to think this is the most important thing we'll ever do. He's like, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So as a result of that, sometimes it's kind of fun, man.
It's kind of fun. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and it's kind of fun.
Love it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's great to see you, buddy. I just did that. Sorry.
That's cool. Thanks for talking.
Thank you.